Hey everyone, Brad Thorpe from Isophit. Welcome to another edition of Isophit Q&A. Today's question is from a swimmer, it appears. So the question is, I'm a swimmer with back pain. How can Isophit help me swim pain-free? Well, it's kind of pretty simple actually. If you think about the number of repetitions you guys go through as swimmers, I mean, you're dealing with potentially thousands of reps during a practice. And what I mean by repetitions and reps is I mean strokes, like left or right and left and right. And oftentimes what we fail to recognize is all of these muscles that attach to your shoulder and create movement through that shoulder structure, a lot of them are attached to your rib cage. Well, pretty much all of them, to be honest. And that rib cage, well, if you look at the structure of your ribs and how they come in to basically the facet joints off your transverse processes, those ribs dictate your spine mechanics for a lot of the stuff. And then your lower back anchors to your rib cage, right? The lower back muscles, that is, right? So what we have to think about is how do we best increase the strength and stability of a lot of these structures to deal with high volumes of repetitions. Now, one of the things, it's not just for indoor swimming, ocean swimmers and stuff like that, it's for the triathlon community as well. So what we're going to show you are a couple exercises to help stabilize your lower back and your shoulder. So we're going to throw in a little bit of shoulder stuff, because I know if you got some lower back stuff, you probably got some shoulder stuff. So we're going to show you stuff that's going to help emphasize your lower back as well as your shoulders. So let's go. From here, what we want to do is use the MSK to stabilize the lumbar spine. Now, traditionally, most people start on their stomach, and they sort of say, let's work on spinal extension, maybe some spinal extension and rotation, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. The problem is, you have to lift your whole body weight up off the ground. So we're going to make it a little bit easier, give you a little bit better of an option to start with, and then we're going to progress to that sort of prone position. So what I want you guys to do is learn how to sit up nice and tall. Now, the interesting thing is, all you have to do is this. It's really not that hard. So contact the crossbar, sit up tall. Now what I want you to do is raise your rib cage up nice and high, applying pressure into the crossbar. And where you're going to feel that is you're going to start to feel that down that rectus spinae, or erector spinae, and the lumbar region of your back. And what we can do, if we want to get a little bit more specific, is just drop that point of application. And then from here, same thing, pulling back and down. So that's how we want to sort of start to prepare your body. Now, the interesting thing is, you can also, and if you don't have an MSK and you're by the pool, what you can do is go up against the wall and do the exact same thing. So what you're doing is sitting up nice and tall, heads gently back against that wall. And that's going to effectively work similar stuff, right? You don't get the luxury of changing that point of application unless you have some sort of dowel that you can manipulate and bring up or down. So those are some things. But now what we're going to do, so we've done our seated sort of spinal extension to prep the muscles. Now we're going to come underneath the crossbar. And what we're going to do is work on shoulder or spinal extension, so pulling up. Now what you can see is I'm now having to lift more mass into a restraint. So that's pretty cool. You know, obviously you can manipulate loads and stuff by where are your arms in space. I mean, you can mimic your swim patterning to a degree. If I bring this down a little bit, what I can now do is work on some shoulder extension, be it left side, and shoulder flexion, right side. And I can now start to focus on creating a rotational effect around the longitudinal axis of my spine. So what does that mean? So when we're looking at rotation left and rotation right, so that's this movement. I can create that by applying opposing forces through my arm structure. So my spine has to start to deal with that stuff. So that way, when you guys get into the pool, or the ocean, depending on where you guys are swimming, you've effectively stabilized a lot of the muscles that would deal with rotational forces with swimming, right? We also have to think about what is happening below the pelvis, right? It's not just above the pelvis when we're looking at creating torsion throughout the trunk. So we're going to show you one more exercise that's going to help with that sort of function. So here we're going to adjust that bar to 45 degrees. We call this a torsion crunch. And what we want to do is we want to learn how to approximate that right leg, drive it across, left arm, drive across. So hip flexion, adduction, hip extension. We're just going to externally rotate that structure, so we're going to turn it out. So just working in opposition, head centered, and we're trying to rotate around your spine. Right leg goes that way, left arm goes that way, and just drive through. Obviously, you do that on the other side, but for sake of saving a little bit of time, because we trust that you got to get back to your day, that's all we're talking about today. So that's how Isophit MSK can basically help with reducing back pain for swimmers. We'll see you tomorrow on another Isophit Q&A. Thanks for your time today.